Well, we are still waiting on a decision from the grand jury in Ferguson. A Missouri prosecutor is expected to announce sometime tonight whether Darren Wilson will be indicted for shooting and killing unarmed Michael Brown. Ahead of the decision, Nadia Brigham, the program officer in the Racial Equality Program for the WK Kellogg Foundation, joins me tonight to talk a little bit more about race relations and strengthening those relations within a community. Now, that community is on edge, yes. Nadia, no doubt about that. Very touchy situation in Ferguson. Can we talk a little bit about how that community can avoid any more violence?
So I think that there's a broader story about the community of Ferguson that needs to be understood. You're talking about a community of courageous leaders, young and old, who have come out and let their voices be heard about the incidents around young Michael Brown Jr.'s life and death. But also, this incident represents a straw that broke the camel's back around what has been experienced by that community for a number of years. But these courageous leaders, young and old, have come out. They have let their voices be heard in peaceful, nonviolent protests to begin the process of trying to heal and to get some resolution and to clean the wound that is known as racism in our communities.
What are some of the key ingredients to avoiding a similar situation like that one, say, in Grand Rapids?
So I think the important thing, and that what we try to promote at the Kellogg Foundation, is that all lives matter. Young, old, black, white, all lives matter, and we have to begin to have conversations about how that shows up in our communities, how we show and demonstrate that lives matter, whether we're talking about, for the Kellogg Foundation, that would mean education and family economic security and health. In other communities, it might be other issues, jobs and employment, and just a number of different issues that are important to quality of life. But what we need to promote is that all lives do matter. They have value.
What are some of the things we can do to strengthen our community? Are there programs in place right now, or do we need more?
You can never have enough people on the ground working through these issues, whether they show up through programming or not is a different conversation. But I think that you have programs in the community that are talking about these issues, like the Woodrick Center. You have the organization that talks about racial equity and community, and they do the credentialing for organizations to talk about being a racism-free community. You have organizations on the West Corridor that called the Lakeshore Ethnic Diversity Alliance that's doing these kinds of conversations. Here in our own local community, we also have Institutes for Healing Racism, where we're talking about how are we in relationship with one another, how are we working interpersonally to talk about race issues. And that conversation, those critical conversations, are necessary to begin to bridge the gaps.
And they can really never stop.
They can't.
Nadia Brigham, thank you so much for joining us from the WK Kellogg Foundation. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.